But
Hold on.
Okay.
Guys, now we're finally back to all kind of technical difficulties. The gremlins, the rain, I don't know what it is. Back again, we're going to do a couple episodes for you guys before Colby takes off spring training. We're going to pick his brain on where he thinks the season is headed, from a wins total, from a losses total, not only for his team, but for what he would consider the favorites in each of the two leagues. We're going to talk about the AL today. He's a little bit more familiar with that. He is a genius as it comes to baseball, though. He's going to give y'all some NL picks next week before he takes off to spring training. We're also going to talk about some rules changes that are going to be going on, because a lot of you guys might not know anything about some rules changes that are going to happen. Colby, I know you're good, but you got to be nervous, brother. You're headed to spring training in just a few days.
Oh, yeah. I ain't no doubt, man. I've been telling people over the past couple of days, everybody asked me, man, you get nervous or whatever? And I told them it ain't really hit me the same yet because I'm still rehabbing. And then today kind of nerves hit a little bit and it got surreal. But, yeah, I'm excited. But, yeah, I'm definitely not a genius when it comes to picking this stuff. I'm probably going to say something today that's going to be dumb, but
we're gonna find out. Look, we already know the way you're going to lean on a few of your selections today. We already know that. From an organizational standpoint, it'd be crazy for you not to rave on the team that you're associated with. And we as MLB fans, we'll kind of overlook that for a minute unless you're right and y'all roll off 115 or so wins. So,
yeah, exactly.
All right, so first of all, before we jump into you versus Vegas, why don't you and I were talking about this just a couple of days ago. Why don't you share a few of the rules changes that'll be in effect in 2023 that, even a fan that follows the game pretty closely might not know about everything that's going on?
So the big elephant in the room is everybody talking about the shift. They banned the shift. And basically, I guess it is a modern fan rule change. Like kids today and fans today really want to see offense. So the old school Tony Gwynn type hitter hitting the ball all over the field, spraying it around, getting a bunch of hits. It's not going to be as necessary in the years following, or I guess just this year, if that rule is just seeing how it takes place this year. So that's one big one. You can't shift. You got to have so many people in the infield dirt, so many people on one side of second base, that kind of thing. I don't like it. Obviously, you growing up, how you saw baseball played in its pure form.
Right.
Saw some real hitters. I'm assuming you're not a big fan of it either. I don't know.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The shift to me, it's hard enough to hit a baseball coming at you and trying to find a hole where there's men standing out there trying to stop it. And then when you overload one side, especially a guy that's a big power pull hitter, I remember, I'll give you a prime example. I was thumbing through social media somewhere the other day, and I ran across a guy named Matt Stairs, and I forgot all about Matt Stairs. All I remember is he was built like a middle linebacker and could hit a baseball about 5,000 feet if he really got a hold of one. But the problem is he was such a pull hitter. In today's game with the shift, he would only bat about 150. Because he's just going to pound the ball right at a guy that's perfectly positioned for him. And
exactly.
But like you said, a guy like Tony Gwynn would adjust. A guy like Ichiro that played a few years back, Ichiro would adjust, and he'd be slapping the ball all over the ballpark. Older cats like Tony Fernandez, which some of our listeners probably don't even have any idea who Tony Fernandez is. Tony Fernandez was a guy that could pretty much tell you where he was going to hit the ball. Like he'd just flick his bat out there, and he was going to tell you within 5 feet of where the ball was going to hit the ground. So, guys like that would have automatically adjusted. And I'll be honest with you, there's so much swing and miss in today's game. I don't know that changing the shift's going to do that much good at all. It might raise a few batting averages, a few points, but I don't see it making a big difference.
Well, what I think is going to happen is these big guys that are pulling the ball a lot of swing and miss, and there's guys that certainly hit the ball to all fields and strike out a lot too. But those kind of guys, it's almost like they're going to change their approach a little bit. They're these free swingers, and I could be wrong. I might look like an idiot at the end of this year after the season goes through, but seems like to me it's going to force hitters to go back kind of old school because, hey, there's one guy in a 4-hole or whatever. There's only second baseman over there. So the odds of you sneaking a ground ball through the hole, even if you do pull the ball every time, are still pretty high, So you want to play the odds in this game. People talk about Vegas and this, that, and other with gambling, but in the game of baseball, I feel like you play the odds as far as your performance. Like, okay, there's no shift. I pull the ball a lot. Last year, I would have probably gotten out a lot more had I not hit it on the right side of the infield or left side, whichever side, But yeah, it's going to definitely be interesting, and that's one of the biggest rule changes. And another one I'm thinking about is the pitch clock. I don't know if it's 15 seconds or 20 seconds. I don't know the exact times. I know that I had pitched in the minor leagues and I can't remember which level, but with a pitch clock, and I didn't really notice it. It wasn't like it was a shortened amount of time to where I felt like it made a difference. But
Right.
It could. Some guys might take a ton of time to get back to the rubber and throw another pitch, but I don't know. I don't know, how that would affect. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I know about a million years ago when I used to pitch a little bit back in the day, I was always a tempo kind of guy anyway. If I started slowing down my mechanics and my delivery to the plate, it was because I was getting fatigued. I was buying time on the mound's what I was doing. But no, if I was in the groove, it was, man, as fast as I could get the ball, I was bringing it back to home plate. Guys will adjust to that, I think, also too. I'm trying to think of some guys that it's going to adversely affect right off the bat. Most of those guys are going to make quick adjustments to that. And a lot of them, I'm telling you, as hard as some of these guys throw, they probably want to get the ball back as quickly as they can to get it to home plate. My question is going to be is what's the enforcement? Like how many, like what does the rule say about warnings? Like how are they going to warn them X amount of times? Is it going to be first violation is going to be, is it going to be drastic? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, well, I think what they're going to do is they're going to ball it. And I want to say, don't quote me on this, and I should know it. I promise you, after I get to spring training and we go through meetings on it, I'll know it a lot more. But I want to say you just have to come set. I don't think it's like deliver a pitch, because then that dictates the game. Like, okay, well, if he picks off here, you see what I'm saying? But I think you got to come set, and it's either 20 seconds or 15 seconds. But I'm leaning toward 20. For some reason, I think it's 20 seconds. So, I mean, it's adequate enough time to throw a pitch, and then like I said, I believe if you don't come set within that time frame, it's a ball, and then you go through it again. So, and my thing on this too, like I know you're talking about tempo pitching. I had a pitching coach in college at Pearl River. He was real big on pitching with the tempo. And what I started realizing as a young pitcher, is if you throw a good pitch to a guy and then you get back on the mound and you throw another pitch, that gives that hitter less time to sit there and think about what sequence you just threw to him. Okay, I just saw, 2 sliders in a row or whatever, whatever it may be. What's coming next? It kind of shortens down that time to slow the game down, And but yeah, I don't quote me on it, and I should have had more info today, but I know it just got passed or whatever over the past several months. But yeah, and then let's see, the pitch clock, and the next thing they're going to have is the bases are getting bigger. So I don't really know what that's going to do. I think they're saying it's going to help with collisions at the base paths. I believe.
I know. Well, I know that was the big argument. They didn't want to have guys, especially at first base, collisions at first base. I didn't realize that had become a huge problem. I used to joke with people all the time, if your infield is so erratic that it's bringing the first baseman up the line that many times, maybe you need to swap out the infielders.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well,
I've seen some pretty impressive collisions, though, especially at first. So,
oh, yeah. I mean, to me, it don't make much sense to make the bases bigger if you're not going to make that plate bigger. Which I say that I'm a pitcher.
That sounds like a pitcher talking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
About 35 inches would be plenty, huh?
Yeah.
Man, can you imagine 35 inches plate? Man, if you could hit the black on a 35-inch plate, they'd never touch the ball.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the major rule change. They got some other small incremental stuff. Do you see any of them having a major effect on this upcoming season?
I think power hitters are going to have higher batting averages than they had in the past. I don't think you're going to see. I say if a guy hits your typical guy that hits 20 plus home runs, he's more likely to add 10, 15 points to his batting average based on being able to drive the ball, pull the ball into the hole, because it's hitting style of staying inside the ball and driving it back up the middle or backside. You hear that from the time you're in, I don't know, kid pitch or whatever with coaches now. It's going to gradually dwindle to the old Ted Williams talk, hit the ball out in front, pull the baseball. Good hitters pull the baseball. So I definitely think the shift is going to help hitters tremendously. I think you're going to see a bunch of, 91 mile an hour exit velocity ground balls through the 4-hole and the 6-hole for hits, which might not would have been before, but it is what it is. I guess that's where the game is headed. So that's what I do think is going to happen as a result of that. I think you're going to see more intentional walks. Like the early 2000s, 90s, you see a bunch of intentional walks. I think you're going to – I don't know how many –
Barry Bonds type numbers.
Yeah, I think offensive production is definitely going to jump. I say when you look at it, Major League as a whole and the average batting average, I think this past year the average batting average for Major League Baseball was like 245. I would be willing to bet that it's in the 260 range or so, So, and these are just blind logic thinking stuff to me. It might go down. We might be sitting here and I was like, man, I was way wrong. But just thinking through it like that, that's kind of what I see. I don't think the plate or the base is going from, I believe it was 12 inches to 18. I don't think that's really going to do that much. I don't think that the pitch clock's going to do that much, but I think the shift will.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I'm gonna say the shift. The shift's gonna actually help some guys that truly struggled with the bat this year. Even when they hit a ball on the screws, it was right at somebody. Mm-hmm. And the reason it was right at somebody, because somebody was playing in a hole that had been there the previous 100 years.
Oh yeah,
so, yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I saw some balls get absolutely crucified this past season, but it was right at a guy. Like, I mean, hit so hard that the camera couldn't even get to the guy stopping the ball. And then he's fielding it and throwing the ball to first by the time the camera makes the adjustment. And, in a major league game, you got 15 cameras going and you can't keep up with it. Somebody absolutely hit a ball on the screws if you hit it that hard. So
exactly.
But I see what
and the thing too is when they get that second baseman or shortstop or, different teams do it different ways. When you get him back there 130 foot, 140 foot from the plate, he's not in the infield dirt. And then you have a man, I guess a lot of times they put the third baseman behind second. So up the middle, true second base, and then in that hole is all covered. And then first base, I mean, and then it got to the point to where for a few years, them big lefties that had that shift going on, they were trying to push bunt third base side if you could get a hit. And a lot of them struggle to do that, But, I mean, if a fielder sees a ball 130 foot, he's got a lot of time to make an adjustment which way he's running and cover a lot of ground. I guess, so.
Well, the shift got so absurd at one point, though, that you had a second baseman that needed binoculars to see home plate. He was standing as far out in the outfield. I mean, that's insane. I understand trying to keep a guy from getting a hit, but I mean, that's ridiculous, man.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, as a pitcher, when a pitcher's on the mound and that crazy shift is going on, and then the one time out of 200 at-bats, the guy hits the ball backside, and you're like, what are we doing? But, I mean, this guy had 500 at-bats, and, I don't know, 60, 70% of the time he pulled the baseball. You're sitting there thinking, well, it does make sense. But yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. I don't know, man. I don't know.
So for all the MLB fans, that's our rules changes section that we're going to talk about. And like I said, some folks might not have known that this was going to go into effect. You know, a lot of stuff they heard. I had heard about the expansion of the plate, but I mean the bases, but I didn't know they'd actually ruled on it. So,
Yeah.
all right, here's where you take on Vegas. Let's see how good you are. Now, we already know a certain team in today's episode will get a little more shine than others. I mean, since you're wearing the shirt, we already know, but let's try to be as impartial as possible. Okay. First of all, this information I'm pulling from is from a website called Vegas Insider. So if you're questioning my numbers, that's where they're coming from. All right. Now this is before all the trades and all that stuff that went on, the free agent signings and all that. This is what they said preseason. AL win totals. Baltimore Orioles 62.5. Boston Red Sox 85.5. Chicago White Sox 91.5. Cleveland Guardians 76.5. Detroit 78.5. Houston 91.5. Kansas City 74.5. The Los Angeles Angels 83.5. Minnesota Twins 81.5. New York Yankees 91.5. Oakland, 68.5. Seattle 83.5. Tampa Bay Rays 89.5. Texas Rangers 74.5. And the Toronto Blue Jays 92.5. Now, I can give you the adjusted numbers, but I want to ask you about those numbers. Does that sound closer to what they're going to have at the end of the year, or do you think that the blockbuster trades and free agent signings and all that are going to make that big of a difference in that win total?
Oh.
Tell me, just grab a couple of them that kind of jumped off at you, kind of threw you for a loop. You couldn't believe that they were coming up with those numbers.
Yeah, well, to start with, I'll say this, and this is kind of off. I don't gamble. I don't even know anything about the numbers on what they, and definitely am not talking to anybody that does gamble on baseball.
Correct. We are not endorsing. This show does not endorse gambling on sports bets.
Yes, and anything I say here will not be used on any kind of way to make money, which you'll probably lose everything you had if you were dumb enough to do that. But obviously the Blue Jays, they got a big offense. If I'm them, and it's gonna get better because the shift is gonna make it that much more offensive. I want to say the Blue Jays had like 12-point higher batting average than the closest team. And I want to say that might have been the Red Sox, but they hit. They're young. They hit. And they got some starters that are young and throw it very well. But obviously, I mean, when you start looking at those odds, they're running those. I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, they're just looking at strictly stats, and they're not taking into consideration, this guy hit 310 this year. Next year he'll have a down year or whatever. And that's just something you can't predict. But obviously the Blue Jays have a big offense. Obviously the Yankees have a big offense. I really feel like the Rays, I feel like we have the best starting pitching in baseball. I really feel like that. When you look at who we have, I mean, top-tier guys, top-tier arms. Heck, had the starter in an all-star game last year, So, I mean, he's 25, 26, something like that. But, man, this is random, and they kind of made a splash at the end of the year last year. But I want to say the Guardians are the youngest team in baseball.
Right.
And you look at what they done over the course of the year last year, there's a lot to be excited about, I feel like. And, I hadn't really kept up with too much of, trades and free agent stuff and re-signing, stuff like that. But, the average age, I want to say, was 26. That's a young ball player. Average team age is 26. I mean, you got a lot to got young pitching. Seemed like the bullpen got it done pretty good. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously, the Yankees, they're going to have to keep spending. But
let me cut in here just a second. Of all the AL teams, how many 100-win teams are in the AL this year?
I just don't think that they'll. I definitely don't. I would not think that there will be 200-win teams, partially because everybody in the AL East is so good. Heck, there might not even be one 100-win team. Because I want to say 4 teams. I want to say every team in the division was over 500 except for the Red Sox, and then Red Sox they got money to spend. They're gonna go get somebody to, they're just not gonna get pushed around or whatever. But the Orioles are young. It's definitely the best division in baseball, and it seems like to me over the past 20 years, or since I've been alive, I can remember, year in year out, AL East has been the premier division in baseball. So I wouldn't think it would slow down now. You got the Blue Jays with their, basically the best offense in baseball last year and probably years prior. The Rays throw it well. And then you go to the Central. You got the Astros. Are they? Yeah, they're Central, AL Central. They're not. They were in the West when they were in right?
Yeah,
but I definitely
they're in the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Astros are in there with who are they? They're in the division with the Rangers and Detroit and all that bunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I ask about the 100-win teams is because, according to Vegas Insider, there are going to be 200-win teams in the AL this year after everything that's going on, free agency, trades, and all that.
I wouldn't
you hit one of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt one of the West or the Central having 100-win teams, but I think when you start thinking about how many times you play your opponents inside your division and then the caliber of opponents you have, because a couple of years ago when the Orioles were way down, I think they finished 4th in the division this past year, but when they were a 60-win team, that cleared a bunch of wins for somebody else in the division. Well, now you don't have that. They're not getting bullied, so to speak, I guess. So you got 4 teams in there that are to flip a coin. I feel like I don't know that. As good as the Blue Jays hit it, I don't know that the pitching staff is gonna I don't know if it's above par to where the Blue Jays have the AL East. I don't see so and then
the
Yankees
Vegas Insider says the New York Yankees. This number kind of threw me for a loop because I noticed a huge jump in the 2 totals they gave. The New York Yankees, they have projected to win 104.5 games. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then the Houston Astros, 101.5. If you're curious about the Tampa Bay Rays, they have the Rays projected to win 87.5.
Yeah, well,
87.5.
Yeah. Well,
you guys were a 100-win team last year. 100 wins. They cut y'all off a little hard, didn't they?
Well, that was I guess that was 2 years ago. That was, yeah. But here's the thing about that though. When you start looking at the Yankees over the past 10, 15 years, and they've won a bunch of championships prior to that, and have won a few since then. But when you sign a guy, the year you sign a guy, he hit .302 with 35 home runs, and then he goes to Yankee Stadium and doesn't do that, and then you have, you have all these big time starters and relievers that have come through there over the years and had big years before they got there. These guys are just weighing the odds that they repeat what their numbers were the year before, so, right. Or I assume that's how they're doing it. They got to just be looking at statistical data and saying, okay, well, he hit 300 last year. He's going to hit 300 this year. This guy hit 280 last year. He hit and they start mapping it out. But the thing that I think about is not everybody hits well in a certain uniform or a certain place or performs well. Some guys just have a bad year, So it seems like every year the Yankees are the favorite, and I say I'm obviously a Rays guy, but I just don't see them. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if a single team in the division wins 100 games. I don't know that any team would win 100 games. Just me personally. That's my, I guess, far straight. I'm like I said, be the end of the year and we're sitting here and Colby missed this one again. I might be 0 for 12 before it's over with this podcast today. But
now let me ask an obvious question. If the pitching holds up and y'all hit enough, all you got to do is hit enough. If your pitching is really good and you play solid defense and you hit just enough, you can go a long way in baseball. So if the pitching holds up and you get just enough hitting and the defense is solid, and of course you don't get decimated with injuries, the Rays win their division?
Man, yeah. As a player, we're talking. We definitely, I would think, the Rays have plenty of talent. And which, I mean, being realistic and not saying this to toot any other team's horn, I'm a Rays guy. We're going to win it. That's our mindset.
Yeah.
But when you start looking at other teams and lineups and payroll and all that, I don't know that necessarily a name matters. I don't know that the Rays, and obviously, I guess if you got a guy that's done it for 15, 10 years, whatever, he's seen a lot. But I think just because you have top tier, what they call them, blockbuster players, that you're gonna win it all. So, and there's a lot of young guys, but like Wander's seen it a lot. Taylor Walls, you go through the list of guys. McClanahan pitches as well as anybody, as young as he is. So, I don't know. Yeah, I think I mean, obviously in our head we have it to win, but I think it's going to be a very competitive division as it is every year. I don't know that any team sits there at the bottom of the division and struggles the whole year. I think that tide has turned. I think the Orioles proved that this year. The Red Sox is, like I said, as big market as a club as they are, they're not going to sit there and say we're not going to go sign somebody because we're worried about this prospect and this prospect and this. And I could be wrong. They have our old old GM Heim Bloom, but when you have I don't know, $200 million to play with yearly, whatever it is. I don't know. I just threw a number out. Things look different on the other side. So, yeah, I mean, I think obviously the Astros are going to have a good year next year just because of who's in their division. And then I want to say the Mariners. Mariners might pull away with the West. Again, might be dumb. You got the Angels in there that had a rough year last year. And that's another example, man. What do they have the Angels on there?
Let's see. Angels, Los Angeles Angels, 75.5 wins.
Okay. They might be doing it more than.
Which is, let's see, Angels, 83.5 preseason. They won 77 last season. And after everything that's going on, the moves they made, they have them projected to win, 75.5. Actually have them winning less after all the movement.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, but you start looking at contracts and payroll, and heck, the biggest two players in baseball play for the Angels, and you tell me that and they probably will. For some reason, winning has been a hard thing to do over there. But I don't know. It's definitely, that's what's cool about baseball. You can't out big, out fast, or out strong somebody. It's a skill game. It's the ball rolls your way sometimes, and it don't sometimes, and sometimes you just get beat. So right. I think if you're sitting here looking at the American League. Outside of our Rays, we're going to win it. But let's say we didn't. Let's say something crazy happened and the ball didn't fall our way sometime at the end of the year. I think you got to look for the Guardians. I think they're going to be very good. I think the Mariners are going to be very good. I think, World Series type contention. I think they're going to make playoffs. Both of those. I mean,
the Guardians keep coming up in this conversation. So I want to ask you a question. Who is the 2023 Guardians? Like, who's that team that's going to essentially come out of nowhere and be that team? Make it to the playoffs, make a little run. Who's that team?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Mariners, I don't know that it's something that just is a turnaround. I guess baseball's been like that before, but, I don't know. I mean, I think the Guardians are going to gradually keep pulling traction with the young players that they have. I mean, you keep getting experience, you're going to have more success, I feel like. Right. So, that's why I feel like them. And then the Mariners aren't very old. And how many wins they win last year?
Mariners won
92, I think.
Mariners won. Let's see. Mariners won 90 games.
90 games. Okay.
They won 90 games last year.
That's a very good team to win 90 games. But they still didn't win the division. So who was out west?
No. Let's see. The West is going to be. Let me see who's in the West with them.
It's the
West
A's,
is going to be
Angels.
the A's, the Mariners, the Angels, and is it Texas? Is Texas in the West with them? You know, one of those teams that shouldn't be in the West is in the West. Oh, Arizona. Arizona.
They're
is
NL.
National League. Let's see.
It's
going to be. Let's see. White Sox, Cleveland, Detroit. I'm trying to figure out who it is. The Angels, the Twins are in the Central. Oakland A's, Seattle Mariners. It's got to be Texas Rangers because that's the only one left. Everybody else is in the Central.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if the Astros ain't in the West too. What was they? They were NL. Were they NL West before they moved to the?
Yeah, they were. Well, see, and that's what I think so ironic because I remember watching years and years and years of futility in Houston as an NL franchise, and you know they suddenly made the move to the AL and became an absolute power player. I mean, they made leaps and bounds. You know, stealing signals, whatever they were doing something because they became a power player in the AL almost immediately.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like they had revenue flowing that they had never had before because it's like they did I think they did some work to Minute Maid, and then like they rebranded the logo some. I want to say they changed. Well, maybe they went back to the old logos what they done, but it kind of looked different.
Yeah, like I said, Houston was kind of a forgotten franchise, so they jumped in the AL. I mean, and now they got okay. So Cleveland Guardians, you think Seattle's probably going to be that team? But is Seattle the Cleveland Guardians of 2023 if they won 90 games last year?
I mean, neither one of them. I feel like neither one of them is one that you're sitting there thinking, okay, where did this come from? You know, they got talent. I'm just thinking. Yeah. I'm thinking Seattle wins the West. I'm thinking Cleveland wins the Central. We're obviously going to win the East. And then the wild card team is going to come out of the East. And I don't think it's going to be the Blue Jays. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, man. It might be the Orioles.
You think the Orioles could be the Cleveland Guardians? Outstanding. All right, so a couple quick questions here for you. This is opinion stuff now. Let's say the Angels struggle again. You know, they signed a few free agents. You know, we know one, for example, they signed Hunter Renfroe, went out west. If they're struggling and they're on pace to win 70-some-odd games like they have them projected to win, is Ohtani, is he gone? Is he out of town? Are they trading him somewhere?
I don't think so. And the reason why is because I don't know that when you start looking at attendance numbers and you look at the talent they've had over the past 10 years and they haven't done anything really. They hadn't made these deep runs in the playoffs and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know at this point as if it's a must-win situation. I think it's more of we need people to come to the ballpark because they have a big-name player.
Right.
And we got to make money.
And, they are owned by a major corporation. They're not owned by, and they're not owned by an ownership interest of, individuals. So, I mean, I see the point you're making there.
Yeah. I don't think he's gone.
Who's the shocker team? Who's the one team at the end of the year in the AL you're going to be like, dang, I can't believe they won 85 or 90 games?
Oh, man. I'm going to say.
Could it be somebody? Let me just throw one out there. Could it be somebody like Boston? And then, in my opinion, Boston has kind of fallen off from where Boston was trending really well for a long period of time. And then they just, in my opinion, they just kind of fell off. They reach a certain point every season. And it's like they fall off the cliff. Could it be a team like Boston?
I think it's going to be the Rangers, actually. They've
kind of had a rough. Going to make the move.
Yeah, I think. I'm saying that it would be hard for me to believe that Texas could win 85 games. No, I definitely don't think they're going to win 85 games next year.
So I thought you were meaning you thought Texas was going to win 85 or 90 ball games.
No. I say they're the least likely to win 85 games next year out of anybody in the AL. Okay. That's just me.
So a team like Oakland, you think Oakland could shock the world? They got them projected to win like 60 games.
I don't see it neither, but I still think they win more games than the Rangers will. I mean, obviously I think you could map it out to where I'm not betting against the AL East. You know,
Okay.
I'm not ruling them out. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
we've established that you are part of the dominant division. I'm looking for that sleeper pick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. That's baseball, man. You sit around and you play GM and you look at teams and you analyze guys and you listen to Harold Reynolds and obviously Harold Reynolds and his GMs and all get the stuff right. But outside of that, man, it's a big flip of the coin. Like, you know, obviously you got to have talent to start with, but when you start talking about teams that's got you know, these top tier players like they do, you never know what's going to happen. Is what I'm getting at. You know, it's
right,
so
unpredictable. I do have this number just keeps glaring on the screen at me. 101.5 wins is what they have Houston projected to win. Now, here's my question.
I'm gonna say they're under that.
Houston has essentially pushed every button and you know everything's gone essentially right for them for the last few years. Ever since you know they were projected. I don't know if you remember this, but they were on the cover. I think Sports Illustrated in like 20 whatever it was. It's like 5 years before they won the World Series, and the guy said in 5 years, "Here's your World Series champ," and everybody laughed the dude out of the building. And then suddenly, 4 years later, they won the World Series.
Yeah,
they had guys that they were drafting in, you know, the Jose Altuves and the Carlos Correas and guys like that. Okay, now they lost Correa; he's gone to free agency. They lost Verlander. Verlander signed with the Mets. How in this world do you think that there's any way they're going to come close to 100 wins this year?
Well,
what could they have been looking at to say they still going to win 100, even though they lost arguably in this moment right now the best right-handed pitcher in Major League Baseball right now? I mean, I know that's a crazy statement to make because there's a lot of good guys, but I would take Justin Verlander in a Game 7 of a championship series over a lot of guys in the MLB.
Well, and the thing to be thinking about too, obviously they have a bunch of talent. Obviously they have a good farm system. Obviously they develop guys very well. But when you come off of a year like you did last year, which is a hard thing to do, no matter who you are, no matter where you're at, and then to say, well, they're going to win 100 games, you know, that's kind of bold, you know, because it's such a precious thing. It's so hard to do.
They won 95 last
year. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, complacency, I feel like sits in with teams. I mean, unless you're the New York Yankees of the early 2000s and throughout the years and stuff, where you can just pay and bring new players in, which it doesn't seem like the Astros are doing that too much. They're signing some guys, but they're not just going overboard with it. But I don't know. I think the odds of them winning 100 games are pretty low. I really do. And not saying that they're not good. They are. They're very talented. They know how to win. They've won for the past, 6-7 years. I don't know when their first World Series was, but they've been in contention for years. And it's such a precious thing to be able to win that much. So, yeah, I'm under that. I don't think that that's a realistic. And I guess somebody just done like me and put a bold statement out there. So.
Just do it, man. Just put it out there. Don't be afraid. Yeah. Put it out there, and now it's on YouTube. Everybody heard it. So, all right. So as we wrap up the AL preview and prediction show via Colby White, the genius. All right, Colby, give me the final two teams standing in the AL that's going to face off to go to the World Series.
See, I don't know how the bracket would map up.
Well, that's what I'm saying now. If it's you had it all played out in your head. You had the whole bracket played out. You were talking about it just a minute ago.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how they're gonna do the wild card thing and all because they're gonna do there'll be two teams play for that fourth spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then
let's shoot. I'll tell you what, let me make it easy for you. This will be easy. Just tell me who's going to represent the AL in the World Series.
It's going to be the Rays, man.
And if it
ain't the Rays,
huh? Oh, here we go. The man said, "If it's not the Rays, everybody listen now.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be the Rays, but let's just say we didn't eat our Wheaties that day, or
That man said we didn't need our Wheaties.
uh, I think the Guardians are gonna be in contention. Obviously, you know, the Rays, and then the playoff team's gonna be out of the AL East. And I'm gonna say that team is either gonna be the Orioles or the Yankees. For some reason, I just
man,
ain't
that is a
big.
bold. That is a bold statement. With the Orioles only winning 52 games last year.
52. They won more than that. They had to.
No, last season, 52 wins.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I'm sitting
They
here
won
looking at
70 something.
They only have them projected. They only have them projected to win 75 this year.
Yeah, because here's the thing, man. You could get it up into the, like, if they, let's just say they go on a month spell where they done really well, you could get up in the 80s, high 80s, and wins, and you could win a wild card in another division, because one team's gonna snuff out a lot more wins than, because I really feel like the Guardians are gonna take away a bunch of wins. But see, that's all in the Central. I say the Guardians win more games than the Astros. I don't know. I'm just talking here.
You just don't know. You're just talking at this point.
Yeah. McClanahan's going to win. McClanahan's going to win the Cy Young.
He's so excited. He's so excited about spring training. His head's just swimming right now. So
yeah, McClanahan's going to win a Cy Young. Jordan Westburg debuts next year.
Oh.
Jake Mangum debuts this year. I said next year, but I'm talking about 2023.
Crazy statements now.
No, this ain't crazy. Westy.
What about since you're spitting out all these Mississippi State Bulldog guys that's going to make their mark here? What about Jordan Westburg?
Yeah,
I saw where Jordan Westburg's got an invitation to spring training.
Man, I went down and break the camp.
Isn't he with Texas? He's with Texas, isn't he?
No, he's with the Orioles.
Oh, I thought, okay. I'm trying to think who that. Oh, it's Foscue. Justin Foscue got an invitation to spring training with the Rangers. And I tell you, though,
I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, he's the number one prospect in their org.
Yeah, they named him that about 2 weeks ago, which is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to be real with you, man, playing with Foscue and all them, man, it really ain't to me. Man's a good player. You know,
I know. Trust me. You talking about a guy that missed them. All these guys you naming off, I missed every one of them when they left. It hurt it took a little piece of my heart with them. So.
Oh yeah.
All right, brother. We're gonna do this again for our listeners. We're gonna do this again next Sunday. He's not gonna have any kind of partiality complex. He's not gonna have to talk up the Rays, and he's not gonna have to talk down the Yankees. We're gonna talk about the National League next week. There could be a few Brave comments. You know, he's a Braves guy. I'm gonna have to talk him down off the ledge on those next week. So we'll see.
Rays.
Yeah, Rays and Braves. We're gonna see. I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna push you to the limit. I'm gonna push you to the limit with a few questions next week about the NL. I'm a NL guy. I'm an AL guy because of my dude right here, but I've always been an NL guy. So, and now that we got the DH and they've ruined the entire game of baseball, I guess I'll just have to start rooting for everybody now. So
that's it.
That's right. The DH ruined the league. I said that out loud. So, all right. Anything else, brother, before we get out of here?
Thank everybody for listening. Don't gamble on baseball.
Yeah, don't gamble on any information you got here today because we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't condone gambling.
That's right. We do not condone gambling. Yeah, don't be betting on any of Colby's games. All right, big man. So give us a quick update. How many days is it before you check out and head to spring training?
Man, I don't really know how many days. I think it's around 2 weeks. February the 13th.
Listen, he acts like he don't know down to the minute when he's going to be there.
Man, I know the day, but I don't know how many days, you know. But,
the man said he knows the day.
Yeah. But yeah, just kind of rehabbing still. I actually throw my first bullpen side.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
Side, you know.
Oh, Lord. He'll have the nervous twitch.
Come on now. Yeah, but I'm excited, man. It's going to feel good.
Dude, I'm super excited for you, too. I'm glad to see that you're finally getting back up on that mound. That's where you need to be, so.
Exactly.
All right, for all our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in today. Colby and I'll see you guys next Sunday. Now, look, after next Sunday, gonna be kind of hit or miss with the Brushing Them Back with Colby White show. He gets off to spring training. He and I got some crazy ideas about what we want to try to do with him at spring training. First, we got to see if he's going to get in any trouble if he does. So we'll have to clear that with a few MLB officials. But it's going, like I said, it's going to be a little sporadic with the shows after next week. But we're going to continue to bring you guys content. Isn't that right, Colby?
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Colby said he might crank up a live broadcast in the bullpen. You don't ever know.
Be a big fine sitting next to it too.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, guys. We'll thank y'all for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.